Welcome back to Reps and Reflections, the podcast where we put the reps that lead to real growth. And then we take the time to reflect on what actually shapes who you're becoming. Today, we're unpacking why kindness gets so easily mistaken for weakness. And I'm excited to have a special guest with us for our conversation, James Ortiz, certified life coach, case manager, business owner, and entrepreneur with a bachelor's in psychology, bringing real world insight into what kindness looks like in relationships, leadership, and lived experiences. Somewhere along the way, kindness kind of got confused with passivity, with people pleasing, with staying quiet just to keep the peace. And that misunderstanding, it's really cost a lot of people their voice, their boundaries, and their self respect. Because kindness does not mean avoiding conflict. It doesn't mean shrinking yourself that so that others can feel larger than you. And it definitely doesn't mean saying yes when you really want to say no. Because real strength isn't loud, it's regulated. If kindness were weak, it wouldn't be so hard to practice, would it? So today, we want to slow this down a bit so we can define some of these terms because niceness and kindness are not the same thing. When you really think about it, niceness is comfort seeking and it's about avoiding tension. But kindness on the other hand is compassion with honesty and compassion with boundaries. Kindness requires choice. It requires intention. And most of the time, it requires more courage than reacting or shutting down or even lashing out. So, in this episode of Reps and Reflections with our guest, James Ortiz, we're talking about why kindness is not a weakness and how it can actually be one of the strongest ways that you show up in your relationships, in your life, and in your leadership. Reps and Reflections.
Reps and reflection, reps and reflection, reps and reflection, reps and reflection.
Mr. James Ortiz, welcome to the show, man. Again,
Thanks for having me back.
it's the second time.
Yeah,
We said first of many and we made it happen.
and it's going to keep going
It's,
from here.
it's going to keep rolling. It's going to keep rolling. So, thank you so much for taking out your time, to be on the podcast, to share your time with the viewers. We're talking about kindness, talking about, and this is actually something that you brought up.
Yeah.
This is the first question I want to ask, and I know I've got the cards, but why? The first thing that I want to ask you is why was this so? Why? How did this speak to you? Why did this speak to you?
Yeah, I think that I came, when I messaged you, I was like, hey, I think I have a good topic. Kindness isn't weakness was the original title that I was workshopping at the
Yeah.
time. And I think that I had just been doing a lot of self-reflection of, within myself of late,
Yeah.
especially with some of the relationship changes that I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm remembering past conversations, and I'm kind of putting some things together, and I'm connecting some dots, and I'm realizing, okay, maybe this is an area where I can grow a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of workshopping what I want to work on as far as personal growth,
Mm-hmm.
and what I wanted to share with everyone else.
Very nice. And I we talked a little bit about the episode that I did before that vulnerability isn't a weakness.
Right.
And I mean obviously this is very similar, right? But being vulnerable and being kind are two very different things.
Yes, and I listened to that this morning on the drive-in, did my homework. And if you haven't checked out that episode, I would highly recommend it.
Appreciate it. Yeah. And so the first question I want to ask, for conversational purposes is, do you think kindness has been confused with passivity or lack of self-respect?
I think so, and I think it's easy to make that misassumption.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times when people are described, oh, he's so nice or he's so kind, it is a lot of giving from that person. But I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, well, I know that they're giving a lot, but are they getting what they need back?
Right.
I think that it's easy to do. Oh, well, don't worry about it. I got this. I'll do this work for you, or what have you.
People pleasing.
Right. and putting so much on themselves. But as far as the passivity, I think it also is, are they not communicating what their needs are? Are they not setting their own boundaries? So it's passive in that way because they're not taking the action to set these boundaries.
Right. Right. And so why do you think kindness got labeled as a weakness in the first place? Where did it come from?
I think from that misinterpretation of it. I think that, you made the distinction between nice and kind.
Yeah.
And I think that what people are seeing as nice, I think other people maybe not being able to put it into words, but they're seeing the niceness as passivity.
Right.
And they're associating niceness with kindness because sometimes the actions are very similar.
Correct.
So I think that that's how it started to grow into this thing.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, a little bit in the intro, I talked about a couple of the distinctions. In your own definition, what is the difference between kindness and niceness?
It reminds me of what I was learning one time about the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. And the general consensus it was one of my college courses.
Right.
The general consensus was that sympathy.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
The general consensus.
The general consensus was that sympathy was, I don't know what you're going through, but I feel bad for you. I can recognize that you're going through it.
Right.
Empathy is, I've experienced what you're experiencing, at least I can put myself in your shoes.
Right.
And I can, not maybe in the moment, but feel the same feelings that you feel. And then there's compassion, which requires action.
Yeah.
You can feel all you want for somebody, but if you're not acting upon it, then it's not truly compassionate.
Right. I agree.
And so I think that is the difference, because there requires intention and action in order for it to be kind.
Correct.
Because kindness is just the action, the intention's not there.
Yeah.
Or not truly there, I would say.
Just not genuine. Right? It's nice guys finish last. I don't know if you ever heard of that before, right? But it's just like, and it's whatever gender.
He doesn't know if I've heard that before.
Hey, there's a little age gap, so I never know. But if you heard that saying, right? I mean, and we're gonna keep it, gender. This is not specific to nice guys finish last. Oftentimes it's nice people finish last, right? Because again, it's the people pleasing, it's the over giving, it's the overextending, it's the not paying attention or a lack of focus on your internal compass. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna be nice, I'm gonna be nice, just so I don't have to deal with conflict or confrontation, right? Being nice is just avoiding issues, right? But being kind, a lot like what you said, it's about handling situations with grace, being genuine in those moments, right? But ultimately being honest with yourself, right? Yeah, you can walk around and be nice all day long, but like you said, it's not actionable, it's not intentional. Hey, how you doing? Hey, chipper, chipper. First of all, that's not authentic, right? But being kind to people it's so deeply rooted in understanding. It's so deeply rooted in understanding. And I love the word compassion that you use because it's spot on. When you want to be compassionate with someone for someone, something, some race, some whatever, that requires a lot of depth. It requires a lot of thought. You brought up a word, one word that I talk about all the time on this show, and I love that word because it's so important, and it's boundaries. And so my question to you is, how does kindness change when your boundaries are clear?
I could just give a general example.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, arguments that you might have in a relationship.
Yeah.
You can be nice and you could skirt around the problem. And, you could oh, I don't want to bring this up. I don't want to bring because I don't want to be mean. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be rude.
Avoidance.
And yeah, just trying to stay out of that conflict, thinking that it'll blow over and that'll be the healthy thing for the relationship.
Right.
But kindness is being able to bring those things up, like, hey, I don't feel that what you did here was right. This
Right.
is how it made me feel. This is what I would like to see different. If I'm wrong, talk to me about that now.
Right.
So it opens up communication,
Yes.
and you're not putting yourself over that person,
Mm-hmm.
but you're making sure that y'all are aligned in that moment.
Amen. I love it. I love it. To just piggyback off of what you just said, as far as a relational conversation, nice is that issue that comes up that you don't want to touch, right? But being kind, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing what you said, but being kind is really showing understanding of not only yourself but of the other person's feelings and their thoughts and their reactions, right? I think oftentimes in situations where people are avoiding it is because or being nice just to avoid it, oftentimes that comes from our own insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our own lack of conversational skills, our own lack of genuine empathy, and our lack of understanding that we are sharpened through our challenges. And that includes relationships. That especially includes relationships. If you don't go through trials and tribulations, how do you know what joy feels like
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship?
Right.
Right? It's the yin and the yang, right? It's how do I feel this healthy emotion intensely if I've never felt the pain?
And I think that part of like what you're saying right now, I
Yeah.
think it even goes back to one of your earlier questions
Hmm.
of, how has kindness been labeled a weakness?
Yeah.
And you said right now, healthy. How do I feel this feeling healthily?
Yeah.
And I think that this is what has happened a lot of the times. I think that sometimes someone is upset and they don't know how to express that
Hmm.
healthily. And
Hmm.
so the reaction is to come on too strong, to
Yeah.
come on angry, to come on
Overcompensate.
right, to come on aggressively. And I think that
Mm.
the idea is like, if I don't do this, then I won't be heard. Therefore,
Hmm.
kindness is weakness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's just an incorrect assumption.
Right. Now, how can someone? Well, let me ask it this way: is it possible to be compassionate and still be firm?
Absolutely, I think it's a requirement.
What does that look like?
Well, this is where we're gonna have to take a pause in the video to give
Yeah.
me some time to
To
think.
think about. No, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's a
No,
difficult question.
no. We can absolutely. We can talk this out. Just being compassionate and still being firm. Again, it just goes back to those boundaries, right? I think a lot of times people don't. People hear the word boundaries and the person giving the boundaries oftentimes are using it as a scare tactic or a fear tactic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or a threat or an ultimatum. And that's not what it's about, right? A boundary is set to protect you, right? And there is compassion in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we didn't say what kind of compassion, right? Can I be compassionate with myself and someone else, right? But it starts with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you can't be compassionate with yourself and be firm in that compassion, you heard the saying 10 toes down. If you can't be 10 toes down and stand firm in your compassion for yourself, how can you be compassionate for someone else, right? And so for me, it starts with boundaries.
But before I get into it, I will say
Yeah.
that I have not heard 10 Toes Down.
No.
So,
Yeah, hey, man, here on Reps and Reflections, we are teaching everybody everything, okay?
but I think that when it comes to.
Wait, time out.
Okay.
What was it yesterday? You know what, man? So
Oh, yeah,
let me
yeah.
let you guys in on something real quick. So yesterday we're doing our production meeting, brief production meeting about today's shows and
It
and
was.
and I've been really busy lately. There's been a lot going on in the family, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry I hadn't been able to get back to you, but it's like I've been drinking water from a fire hydrant." And there was the longest pause.
Yeah. I when he said that, I have never heard that term before, and I'm a very visual person, so I'm just picturing this, and I'm like, what is he trying to say right now? I truly did not understand, and I should have just asked the question to me like, hey, what does that mean? But I was really trying to think it through, and when you explained what you meant, I was gonna be way off.
That
Everything I was thinking was so far off.
the longest pause. I thought we disconnected. So I've now taught him two sayings in 24 hours.
I may never use them, but I know them. They're there.
He's going to use them.
Okay.
Maybe not. He's going to use them.
I'm adding them to my repertoire.
I was about to say he's going to use them if for nothing more than to just mess with me.
Yeah, I'm
hey
only
Bobby,
gonna use
you
them
10
with
toes
Bobby.
down.
Yeah,
exactly. No, but yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to take a moment to connect and let bring people into a little bit of the madness. But we're talking about compassion.
Yes, your question was, can you be compassionate and firm?
Yeah.
And I said, I think it's a requirement because going back to what I was saying earlier about compassion requiring action.
Yeah.
You have to know what action you're going to take.
Yeah.
And you have to know how much action you're willing to take.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to be firm with that from the beginning is really going to dictate how you show that compassion or what that looks like.
Yeah. For me, it's all about mindset as well. To be firm oftentimes comes with a negative connotation, right? And if you're just being firm to be mean or rude or disrespectful, that's when it starts shifting out of compassion, right? And so if your mindset is that of a healthy is born of a healthy seed, then is the hope is that through healthy conversation and communication and dialogue and all those things that you will bear healthier fruit, right? Like that's the hope. And that's where compassion can be firm because not only are you standing firm in it, but you're standing firm in your belief. You're standing firm in your values. You're standing 10 toes down, right? Have you heard standing on business?
I heard standing on business.
Okay. I was making sure, man. So, as two young men sitting on the set, I have a question about masculinity. How has masculinity shaped the idea that kindness equals weakness?
I think very much kind of what I was saying before is just one of the examples of if I'm not aggressive with it, then I am not heard. I'm not going to get what I want. And so I think that is a part of it. I think that, I think we're constantly challenging what masculinity really is, what it really means.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why these challenges are becoming more commonplace for the better is because of that mindset that it's not masculine to be kind. There's this idea of needing such a strong exterior to navigate through sheer force rather than anything else. And that's just not the case. Not only is it not healthy, but it's not as productive as people think it is.
Yeah. And you said that you watched the episode of Vulnerability, and like one of my key points in that episode was the fact that we don't need harder people in the world. We need softer people in the world. We need kinder people in the world. Did you catch Super Bowl?
I did not.
Did you catch the halftime show?
I saw bits and pieces of it.
Bits and pieces of it. To me, it was such a great example of someone being kind and compassionate even through hatred. And so I didn't think of it until now, thinking back on the question prior, how can you be compassionate and still be kind?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Bad Bunny got his message across
Right.
and he was firm,
Mm-hmm.
but he was able to show compassion to so many people that didn't want him there.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, walking around with bulletproof vests and still preaching kindness, still preaching togetherness. It's such a it was such an amazing moment, and the viewership spoke to it as well, right? Just how interested people were. And in my head, I was just thinking, man, like, what if everyone were that kind?
Mm-hmm.
What if everyone was that compassionate? What if everyone was able to connect in a world that society is trying to rip apart?
I think it starts right here.
That right, one person at a time. And I mean, obviously, I know that we're not going to reach 143 million people. You know what I mean? Not today.
Well, let's not
Not
let's not
today.
limit ourselves.
Not today, right? But what about that 144th millionth person who didn't see it?
Right.
Right? How do we continue to get the word out? Continue to get the message out?
I'm actually tagging Bad Bunny in this episode. So
Hey, you know what? I'm glad to know he's a friend of yours.
yeah.
No, but it was a great example, which didn't initially pop into my head, but like once we said that, I was like, man, like that. Just thinking about an example
Right.
of how compassion was firm.
And I think that is what I think that I was trying to get at as far as masculinity as
Yeah.
well, because he was able to deliver that very firm message,
Mhm.
but there was no aggression there.
No,
There was no violence there.
no,
I mean, it was art is
It-
what he is all it was.
it was some
So
beautiful artistry.
there are
Yeah.
other ways to navigate the expression of feelings.
Yes.
You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to power through. There's other avenues that get the message across more effectively. If it had been a violent display or an angry display,
Right.
it wouldn't have reached people the same way.
No. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where you can't please everyone all of the time.
Right.
Right? And so you have a choice to make. Am I gonna lead people off a cliff, or am I gonna lead people to water? You know what I mean? Like, when you have a voice, the hope is that you feel responsible enough to help guide people into a healthier space.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because as we know, there are several people that make a lot of heavy decisions, not healthy, heavy decisions for our country, that don't practice compassion, that don't practice being kind, right?
Mhm.
And so you brought up the word messages, the message. What message or messages did we receive as young men
Mm.
growing up, as it pertains to emotions and being and showing compassion?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think in my upbringing, it was very, very mixed messages,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is something a lot of people experience, because there is a multitude, a vastness of messages coming at us at all times,
Right.
and being able to sit with it and sort through all those, really do some sifting. I imagine somebody panning for gold and really being able to figure out, what in there is of value, and being able to take that with you.
Yeah.
So I mean, just like I imagine most people, I had very mixed messages.
Yeah.
It was one of the messages that I got was one I've been explaining about, needing to be angry to be heard.
Yeah.
And then the other message that I got is the need for kindness. I mean, mistakenly, it was niceness to avoid conflict. So I did get both of these messages.
Yeah.
But I also received, in some ways, a bit healthier of a standard. It was a little bit later in life.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps I was receiving them the whole time, and I was just not cognitively aware of it at my young age.
Yeah.
So I think that another downside with a message of genuine kindness
Mhm.
is that the way it's delivered
Mhm.
is a much more thoughtful,
Mhm.
calm tone in its
Yeah.
delivery. And I think that as a child, it's very difficult to hear that when the other
Mhm.
messages are very loud.
Right. Yeah.
So, that may be part of it as well. So I
Yeah.
may have heard all of these messages, but what messages were the loudest?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, typically the way the brain works, the human condition oftentimes is whatever feeds your insecurities is the loudest voice,
Mm-hmm.
right? If
And
I
it's what you're drawn to.
absolutely, and you know, I mean, I can definitely relate, and I think a lot of people can relate with those mixed messages, and especially when you're young, you know, whether it was your family of origin, whether it was society. For me, it was a lot more of what society was telling me because I always felt safe within my family, expressing my emotions,
Mm-hmm.
expressing my feelings. Um, I mean, I've got such a big family, and compassion and kindness was a big part of my upbringing. It was society, right,
Mm-hmm.
um, that was telling me, "Don't cry,
Mm-hmm.
suck it up, be a man,
Do better.
do better." Comparisons to other
Mm-hmm.
people, right? Um, those messages that were received were, if you show emotion, then you are weak. If you show kindness, you are weak. If you're not willing to fight and physically fight for your respect, you know what I mean? Then you're going to be weak, and you're going to be called several names that we won't say on this podcast, right? But as a young child, or as a young adolescent, you, like you said, you can't decipher between the validity of those words. You don't know that what this person is saying about me
Mm-hmm.
is not about me.
It's about them.
It's about them. But now I internalize it, and now I carry that along with me all the way, all through the years,
Right.
all through the developmental years, and that becomes a part of your narrative. And that sucks,
Mm-hmm.
because just as much as a youngster, you don't know how to receive that, that person probably doesn't know how they're projecting it, right?
Right.
Because I can think back on so many things that I've said. Oh, please, I've been an athlete all my life, right? And so yeah, in football, man, get up, man. You ain't hurt, man. You hurt or you injured, man. Get up, man. Hey, man, why you being soft? All these things that that you say because you just hear and you mimic. And those messages are the ones that take you through life. And the hope is that you do the work that's necessary to break down those beliefs or those unhealthy narratives in your lives, because it's not they're not kind. They're not kind.
And I think that is where compassion comes in, because I said
Yeah.
compassion takes action.
Yeah.
It's work to do this. It's work
Yes.
to train yourself differently,
Mm-hmm.
to let go of that narrative.
Yeah.
Very, very, very difficult, and honestly can be very scary.
Well, because it's deep seated, it's
Right.
deep rooted. Like, we're talking about we're talking about the developmental years of your life. Again, another saying. What do they say that? What do they say? Something is wasted on the youth or on the young, or something like that.
Youth is wasted on the young.
Youth is wasted on the young,
Right.
and it's just
I
like,
taught him one now.
yeah, yeah. That's what we do. But you, as adults, we often look back and think, man, if I knew then what I know now, if I knew then what I know now, you'd still make the same mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You would still make the same mistakes. Why? Because as a child, things happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You think, someone's paying for your roof, someone's paying for your food, someone's paying for everything. You go where your parents. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how much you know. What matters is your capability or autonomy to be able to carry out the type of life that you want to lead, right? And that's why when you become an adult, that's why there's such rebellion. There's what that because you're still trying to find out, is kind being like
Right.
can I be kind and that be okay? Can I be compassionate and that be okay? right? Can I do this and that be okay? Because again, as a young man, you're trying to find out what being masculine really means,
Mm-hmm.
what being a man really means. And oftentimes the message that we receive is that it's men versus women instead of being human,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's being human. It's not about being masculine or being feminine. You know, one of the questions that we asked a little that I asked earlier, as far as um, why do you think kindness got labeled as weakness in the first place? And it's to me, it's a lot about what you said. It's like what we learned in childhood,
Mm-hmm.
the messages we received.
Right.
You know, was it safe? Did I feel okay? Did I feel supported? To feel this feeling as something authentic and genuine, you know? Yeah, man. And we talked about this a little bit, but how did those beliefs show up in your adult relationships?
I think it varied. And also depending on the type of relationship that you
Yeah.
have, um, or your history with that person.
Right.
I could do as much growing and changing as
Mhm.
I can, uh, but if somebody else isn't also
Right.
growing and changing, well, then there's going to be a little bit of conflict.
Mhm.
Um, I think that I fall into that pitfall of kind of reverting back sometimes,
Right.
interacting with certain people.
Yeah.
And I think that is, we were saying before, like, oh, if I knew now what I
Mhm.
know then, and that's the truth. Even if you did know it, you'll still make those same mistakes because knowing isn't everything.
No.
It requires practice,
Yeah.
ongoing practice, and it's never going to be perfect.
No.
Um, and I think that knowing that, I think when I had, excuse me, when I had reached adulthood,
Mhm.
I think that I had seen a shift in myself to where I kind of took on that mindset.
Right.
And I think I realized it one day.
Mhm.
And so it's been an ongoing journey, kind of getting back to the kind person that I had imagined myself in childhood.
Right.
Trying to find that inner child that I honestly felt that I had lost for a long time.
Yeah.
And I really struggled through my college years with that.
Mhm.
So when you ask about me bringing it into relationships, I think it was a slow introduction,
Right.
and I think that I made a lot of mistakes, and
Which are necessary.
yes, and
Yes.
I've done my best to apologize and to amend for those
Mhm.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Some of it has been successful, and some of it is not,
Yeah.
and I think that, like, especially right now, it's knowing it is, that kindness requires a level of understanding,
Mhm.
like you said before, of the other person as
Right.
well. Because what somebody might feel is kind, another person might not.
Right.
I can't just do, oh, I did this to be nice to you. It's like, well, that's not what I needed.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not what I asked for. That's not what really helps me right now.
Mhm.
What I need is this other thing.
Yeah.
So again, kindness is sometimes it's a lot of work and it requires a lot of understanding.
Absolutely. And again, I think to speak to that, going back to the mindset, right? What is your mindset and motives?
Mm-hmm.
You know, my motives are not to change a person's opinion. You know what I mean? That's not my motivation when I'm trying to be kind. I'm not trying to change their opinion of me.
Right.
I'm literally trying. I'm genuinely trying to support that person. But what being kind does, and I think you said a little bit about it earlier, is it opens up the possibility for dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I don't know what you need until you tell me what you need, right? Because being kind isn't about mind reading.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I
Right.
can't read your mind, but I can hope to be kind enough so you get comfortable enough or confident enough to feel okay and safe enough to confide in me,
Right.
right? And obviously as life coaches, that's a big part of what we do, right? When you talk about building rapport,
Mm-hmm.
rapport without compassion doesn't exist. Rapport without being kind doesn't exist. Now, on the flip side, if we're just nice in all our sessions,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no firmness. Yeah.
right. Like then there will be minimal growth because you're not challenging,
Right.
right? You're not holding accountable. You're not doing any of those things because you're trying to be nice.
Right. And see, that's the difference because nice is just nice.
Yeah,
Kind is nice, but also accountability,
absolutely.
especially in our sessions.
Yes.
So it might not feel nice sometimes,
Right.
but I promise you it's kind.
Yeah.
I promise I'm doing it to help.
Right. Your motivation is
Right.
coming. Your mindset is coming from a healthy place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when does kindness become self-abandonment?
I think kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier when
Yeah.
you're overextending,
Yeah.
when you are not able to communicate your needs
Right.
and are serving the needs of others exclusively.
Yeah.
I think that when you talked about the rebellion stage,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, you know, what's true.
Yeah.
I think that is part of it too, because when you don't have the autonomy, you don't get to understand yourself.
Right.
And I think that when
Yeah.
you are just nice, you are
Mhm.
voluntarily giving up that autonomy. You don't get to figure out who you are. That's self-abandonment.
Right.
I don't even know what I like because I'm only doing what this other person likes. I've not had other experiences. I don't know. So
What he said. What he said. I'm not going to even touch that like that. No, that was well said. That was well said. Yeah. What's one boundary that people can set this week that still honors compassion?
one boundary.
Yeah.
I think that would I think it's going to differ depending on who
Of
you are
course.
and what
Yeah.
your needs are. But that boundary is, I don't feel right now that I could confidently say it's
Yeah.
setting a boundary with someone else.
Mhm.
I would say set a boundary within yourself.
Beautiful. And just an example of one boundary that someone can set with themselves.
Go ahead, Bob.
Check your motives. Check your motivation. Anytime we're talking about being compassionate, anytime we're talking about being kind, check your motives. Like that is one small boundary that you can set with yourself. The boundary is I will check my motives before serious interaction. I will check my motivation before serious conversations. And again, like James was saying, like it's gonna vary from person to person. And this is just an example, but always check your motivation. Because in a world where kindness is often misconstrued as weakness or niceness, it's so important that you are centered and you have that inner peace within yourself to know and detach yourself from the outcome. I'm going to be kind because that's the kind of person that I am.
When we first started the men's group that we have,
Yeah.
that is now the 2026 Who's Got
Yes,
Your Six.
sir.
When we first started that, it was Bobby and another gentleman, Austin, that
Yeah.
were there. And I distinctly remember the very first session because one of the questions that Bobby asked, or one of the things that Bobby had relayed, was knowing your why.
Yes.
And I think that has actually stuck with me since then. Because I understood exactly what he was saying. I had just never put it into such a
Right.
concise amount of words.
Yeah.
And it just really resonated. So I think I've taken that phrase and really applied it to my personal life, but also in my practice.
Yeah. I mean, boundaries are much like kindness, is such a challenge to practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we exist,
Right.
because we have gone through and we continue to go through daily challenges, sometimes hourly challenges, right? And you never know what someone is going through, ladies and gentlemen. And it costs nothing to be kind, especially if you're being kind with boundaries. It costs nothing to be kind. It is one of the most inexpensive. It costs $0. It may cost a little time, but sometimes sacrificing your time is worth it for the greater good, right? And
Right.
and what I mean by that is for the health of your relationships, for the health of society, for the health of the nation. Like, I mean, let's get deeper into the health of the nation. And so what this brings up for me is emotional intelligence a form of strength that people don't talk about enough?
I mean, absolutely. I feel like people are talking about it more,
Yeah,
which is it's definitely really encouraging to see.
yeah,
Um, but a lot of the times I hear it on platforms,
yeah,
like platforms like this. I mean,
yeah.
oftentimes I don't hear it in day to day interactions,
Right.
and I mean, there's a time and place to bring up those words. That can be a serious conversation.
Absolutely.
So perhaps
Yeah.
I'm just missing it, but I think a lot of people don't talk about it,
Right.
and I think a lot of people don't quite understand what it really is
Right.
either.
Right.
There's this idea of somebody just being so perfectly well regulated,
Right.
but that's a front as well.
Right.
So that
It's
is
a
not real
mask.
emotional intelligence. And
Yeah.
um, not saying I'm the most emotionally intelligent person
No.
out there, but I think that I've recognized that I used to do that. I used to have the front
Mm-hmm.
of being so well regulated. And so one of the things that I've done personally that I've tried to practice is when I'm going into a new situation, if I am in a bad mood, I did it earlier today.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a rough morning.
Yeah.
I showed up here and I was like, man, I'm a little bit testy of late.
Yeah.
I'm a
You
little
did.
bit testy of late,
He did.
just so
Yeah.
Bobby has the understanding of emotions that I'm going through,
Yeah.
and I'm not required to put on a front, or I
No.
don't feel obligated to do
Right.
so. Because I think that Bobby knows that if I you know answer a little bit shortly,
Yeah.
it's not because I'm intentionally being rude.
Right.
It's because I'm having a little bit of a rough morning. Took me a couple cups of coffee to get to this level of perky.
But
So
that's emotional intelligence,
right,
right? That is the epitome of emotional intelligence. Your day didn't start off how you wanted it to, right? And you figured out not just today,
mm-hmm.
not just today, right? Through reps and reflections, you found out what gets you out of that funk, right?
Right,
What gets you closer to balance,
closer to being ship shape.
it, closer to being in ship shape.
Yeah.
but but I agree with you. I don't believe that emotional intelligence and listen again, like you said, we may be missing the conversations. And so I can only speak about people that I work with or people in my circle or people that I've communicated with throughout my experience.
Right.
But I hear the word immaturity all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's thrown around like hotcakes, right? It's just like you get one and you get one. Like everybody's immature. No, a lot of people are just emotionally not intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, guilty. I'm not where I want to be emotionally intelligence wise. I don't even know if that was the proper way to say that.
We'll find out after the episode.
I was about to say, right? Anyway, I don't know that's what that means.
Right.
You know, it's
I,
about the growth. It's about the journey.
mm-hmm.
Emotional intelligence is about continuing to strive to look in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
to see that reflection in the mirror and say, this is me, this is who I am, this is who I want to be.
Right.
Right. But ultimately trying to decipher between the two, right? There's this older version of yourself, right? And 5 seconds from now is going to be a newer version of ourselves that we haven't met yet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And because you put in that work and regulated yourself in that moment and thought that thought.
Right. And so just trying to figure out how to learn more about yourself more and more each day. That's what it's about. Just more and more each day. And that's what it's about. You increase emotional intelligence every day.
Right.
Right. It is possible to continue to live as mature as possible, but still be emotionally not intelligent.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's where emotional intelligence and compassion come into play too, because you have to have a level of emotional intelligence to understand where somebody else is coming from. You know, like you were saying, like, oh, they're immature. That's such a quick, easy answer to dismiss what's going on with
That's
that
a
person.
label.
Right. You know, like, is he immature, or has this person not learned how to regulate the feelings of anger properly?
Yeah.
And being able to step back from that and be like, I'm not going to get my feelings hurt because this person is not, you know, has not gone on a journey of growth on their own, but I have.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be upset by this right now. Or I'm gonna try not to be upset by this right now.
Well, and I mean, you just hit it right on the head. That speaks to compassion, and that speaks to growth. You know, it speaks to kindness. Just because you're not in the same place on your journey that I'm in my journey does not make you less than.
Right.
Right. It you know, and the other thing is I think that people misconstrue the word ignorance. I'm ignorant to a lot of things, ladies and gentlemen, because ignorance means it's something that you don't know.
Right. There's such a negative connotation with ignorance. And it can be negative depending on the intention of which you're saying it.
Right.
But inherently,
it just means something that you don't know.
Right.
Right. I'm ignorant to being a doctor. I'm ignorant to being a mechanic. You know, I'm ignorant in some of the modalities in counseling and in coaching and in all those things, right? But emotional intelligence tells me, right,
that I can learn it.
I can learn it. Right? That's the growth mindset, that I can and I will learn the things that my awareness leads me to, that my insight leads me to, that my yearning leads me to.
Right. It's because it's not I can learn it. It's I want to learn it.
Exactly. But you don't know what you want to learn unless it's presented to you.
Right.
Right. And so that's what emotional intelligence. And I just wanted to touch on that just a little bit, especially while we're talking about kindness and compassion and boundaries and all those things, man, just because emotional intelligence, it can be your superpower. It can literally be something that, excuse me, that just breaks the chains for you. You know, that knocks down these barriers.
It can elevate you, not above other people, but just elevate you within yourself.
Exactly. You know, and I think that's a really good place to wrap this up. And I mean, I love this topic. Thank you so much for bringing this topic.
Absolutely.
Man. Thank you so much for bringing this topic. I believe that it's something that the world needs to hear right now. I think it's something that the viewers need to hear, that our clients need to hear. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, because we work so hard every day to be kind and to increase our emotional intelligence, this is something that we needed. You know, we needed to remind ourselves to be kind.
Right.
Right. You know, we needed to remind ourselves that, yeah, we're going to be immature at times, but through insight and awareness and being authentic, we continue to build and water our emotional intelligence to the point to where we can be kind and not think that it's a weakness.
Right.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Ship Shape coach right here, James Ortiz. Please follow him. Please just I mean, check out his website. You want to go ahead and give your website?
Yeah, it's just the shipshapecoach.com.
Yeah, and then your email address.
It might be coaching actually. We'll edit that.
We'll edit it. Hey, I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Did you memorize your number yet?
I got close. I remember the first three numbers. It's 649. I think it's 4143.
He's like, it's 512.
Yeah,
area
512. No, it is 512-649-4143.
I believe, yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
He memorized it before I did.
When I edited the last video, I had to type it in so many times, you know what I mean? Or, well, not type it in, I typed it in once, but I had to view it in the editing form so many times. But ladies and gentlemen, Shipshape Coach, I'll post a number, website, check out the website, check out the services. Man, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
The second of many.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Reps and Reflections. It's been such a pleasure these past 2-3 months that I've been posting and doing episodes, and I'm really blessed to be able to start getting some guests on the show, to start having some conversations. But I want to make sure that you guys also understand that we want conversations with you too. So please comment below. Please like, share, subscribe, and all those things, because someone that you know that you're unaware of needs to hear this. Not wants to hear this, they need to hear this. And maybe they just need some resources. Maybe they don't even know that they're struggling right now. Because oftentimes we get stuck in this place of complacency, and we start believing that this is just how life is supposed to feel. That we're just supposed to be nice all the time to avoid conflict. Well, we're here to help you gain some insight, gain some awareness, and take your life back and start building the life that you desire, that you want to live, that inner child said that they wanted when they got older. You're still that child. You just have more responsibilities now. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to Reps and Reflections. And as always, I love you all.
The blind man doesn't need eyes to see, but he finds his way. And I know you struggle, I struggle, we struggle, but fear doesn't have to live here. Because if you rise, and I mean really rise, the return on the investment that you put into yourself will be greater than any other on your journey. But it must be done through reps. It must be done with reflection. Reflection.